Alright, hello YouTube. How's everybody doing today? Hope everybody's having a great start to their weekend. So in my last couple videos I've been talking about the spatial anomaly that we live in, being, a microscopic black hole within the sun. And and I know that seems kind of out there, but there again, well, even Relentless over there, he posted something very similar. I shared his stuff this morning. But what it kind of boils down to is, have you seen? I know everyone's familiar with these, right? This is, oh, okay, that's called a Russian nesting doll. I don't know if you can make that out very well. You got the small, they just go from big to small, right? They all fit inside each other. Like I said, the pieces to the puzzle are all out there. It just depends on how you string them together. And they're not, I don't think and it's referred to as the firmament, right? And I don't really think it's a solid object. You can't pass it, but it's made out of pure energy. So even though we're inside of a bubble, inside of a bubble, inside of a bubble, it's all energy that can be peered through. So we will see certain things, I believe, as we do our peering. They're just not here with us. Like I said, Maverick and I, we share a lot of information back and forth. I see the things he sees the things I see. We don't always see them exactly the same way. But that's what I said about the rabbit holes, right? No matter which rabbit hole trail you're going down to, they eventually will all lead back to the same place if you stay on it long enough, hard enough, dedicated enough. That's that's just how it has been for me. But a couple things that are in the news recently. Well, first, let me show you this. This is something else that Maverick and Butterfly over there shared with me. And I refer to this as like the Journey song Wheel in the Sky. Okay, see all that? Now, what's funny about looking at this is up here at the 12 o'clock, you have Adam. Then if you look at the arrow, right, time runs that way. It says right there, time begins, right there. And so it goes this way. So you have Adam and Noah and Abraham all the way down here to Christ. But if you take that wheel and from the 12 o'clock here, use it as a marker, and you actually turn that wheel in the direction of the arrow, it's going to go Adam, then the Eternal Life Conference, the Middle Ages, Satan appeals, blah, 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 blah. Okay? And I think that's what's going on, quite honestly. On one hand, things are going one direction. On the other hand, things are going the other direction. That kind of gets back into walking to and fro inside the earth and moving up and down. Remember I said the walking to and fro is the timelines. Okay, so as you spin this wheel around, remember, I don't remember how long it was, maybe a month ago, 2 months ago, time is just zinging right along, isn't it? I showed you with the incubators how we were back at Adam. So here not too long ago, we had our this thing that happened in the country, right? Our deep freeze, right? I'm just, again, I can't make this up. This is just how I see it, and they put this stuff out there for a reason. So if you look on here, after Adam came the Ice Age, the Eternal Life Conference. And then there's a line, and then you have Satan appeals, right? Then Satan judge, prehistoric, angelic conflict, and Satan falls. And I think our destiny on this, where it'll end, is right here, where we hit Earth and the millennium. It's in between both these timelines here, and here, and here, and all the way over. Okay, and why do I think that? Well, because where it says Satan appeals, I told you who was playing the part of Satan, right? So, uh, again, I don't make this stuff up. It's in the news. All this stuff, even the stuff that Relentless showed about the anomaly from the James Webb, they put it out there. It's just not part of, and they are the mainstream media, but it's not the, you know, it's, if you're reading the Washington Post, and I've never read it, I have no idea how many pages are in that newspaper, but you have the front page, the main headlines, and the main headlines right now are what? World War III and politics and all this da 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 da, right? Well, if you go back to like page 36 in the nowhere land, that's where you're going to find this stuff. Okay, it's not going to make the headline news. It's just going to be little blurbs, right? But Satan appeals, and what do we have here? Okay, he's appealing. I'm just, you know, I can't make this stuff up. In fact, in the news here recently, you know, the storm that's hitting the West Coast, they're calling an arc front, right? You know, I'm almost 60 years old. I've been watching the weather for a long time, and I've never heard of something called an arc front. And, you know, they've got all their, it's just like everything else. They have their verbal voodoo to back up what they're saying, right? But, you know, every single thing happens for a reason, period. So if it's out there for a reason. Just like I don't know how many people watch the U.S. debt clock. And it's not that I watch it, you know, regularly, but I do check in on it from time to time just out of curiosity's sake. And I happened to go there the other day, and I have never ever seen this before. As soon as I pulled it up, now this is zoomed in, okay? But there's a big window that sat over it right here. Okay, and I probably should have screenshotted the whole thing. But what I found interesting was that part right there. I've never seen them with arrows showing what the price of gold and silver is. Okay, which is meaningless except for the fact that even in the Bible, and let me throw this out there, a lot of people have problems with the Bible because it is controlled by the church, and they think it is part of the control aspect of what is going on. It's like I said, I view the Bible as nothing holy and all this other crap. It's just another book of history. And, you know, in a previous video, I talked about the 10 horns, one of them being that obelisk that we call the Washington Monument, that great big penis-looking thing that's, what, 230 some odd feet in the air. That's one of the horns. Now, if you take that sucker down and you cut it to about a 10 to 15 foot segment and stick it on a Morton building, it's called a steeple. And we now have a church. So just like the government controls the news that you get and everything else, the government's going to control the news that comes out of the Bible. Period. It's just an outreach program. The church is nothing more than an outreach program for the government. Just like your local police officers, they have sergeants and corporals and lieutenants. I've talked about this. They are your local outreach program for the military. Okay, the micro and the macro. It's all micro and macro. Even this right here, my video, is going to be viewed by, what, 30 to 50 people, which is just a small percentage of people within a given movement, let's say, or whatever you want to call it, within the total sphere of YouTube, which is a micro within the total sphere of the internet, which is a micro of the total sphere of, you know, conspiracy, whatever you want to call it, it's in the world. It's all fractals, you know, all of it, I'm just saying. So I found that interesting because in the Bible it says, you know, in the end days or wherever, you know, you'll throw your gold and silver into the street. So right there it's saying that it ain't worth anything. So, and not that people are out there throwing their gold and silver into the street, but, you kind of get the gist there, right? That it's out there that, they're trying to, and I don't think any of this is done. A lot of people say all this stuff happens just to wake people up. No, it's all about timelines, and we've talked about this, in my opinion. It's all timeline related. Now, if we go back and revisit, in a video I did not too long ago, I was talking about how it's in the movies, it's in the music even, right? And one of the songs I pointed out was something called Jars by Chevelle, because we basically live in it. It's a sphere. It can be called a jar, a terranium. It's a sealed, and I said that's where your seals come from in the Bible. And this is where your mud floods come from, the bowls that are poured in, right? So stuff is added. And I've got another one that'll make you think. So a lot of people, especially if you're in the church community, and this is another one of those things, right? The blood of the Lamb, saved by the blood. Well, that's not even coming in at all. Holy smokes. Right there, blood of the Lamb. Right? Revelation 12:11, and they have conquered him by the blood of the Lamb. Okay, and by the word of their testimony, blah, 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 blah. Okay, now they want to tell you that's that Jesus character, right? But in that song Jars, there's a lyric, and I don't know if you guys just watch the videos and then just go about your normal day like it never happened, or if you actually look into any of this stuff that I try to point out. But in that song, it says, oil that tastes like blood. So the vials, right, because there's vials in the Bible too. Every time a seal is broken, either a bowl is poured in or a vial is poured in. And I'm pretty sure at least one or two, if not more, of the vials involved here is actually our blood. Okay? We are the lamb, so to speak. There again, it gets back. I talked about this in a video over a year ago. Okay, about adrenochrome, right? And even in Hollywood, people who've done the research, yeah, they're using, baby parts to, as skin creams, and it keeps them looking young. And, the fountain of youth, I do believe, is found in the blood, and that's why it's black. Because remember, Burning Man, everything was destroyed. There again, you can Google and search, and they're actually out in the news, and I should have screenshotted one. I always like to show my work. About they're finding stuff that predates the Big Bang. Well, there again, it's as above, so below, the beginning and the end, right? So if the beginning started with a Big Bang, the end probably happened with a Big Bang as well. So when they're out there in the news saying, hey, we have found stuff that predates the Big Bang, we potentially could be looking at the time period before everything got destroyed now, okay? So, and that's where on this thing, if we keep going, we get to the prehistoric angelic conflict, which probably led up to the Big Bang. And if you look up the weather, what the weather was like, well, and I think I actually screenshotted some of that. Yeah, right here. So, the weather during the Jurassic period, because that's your prehistoric stuff, right? And the reason I picked the Jurassic period, I'll show you in just a minute. You'll find this interesting, or maybe you won't, I don't know. Okay? Warm, wet climate. And that's kind of what we're headed for now. After that huge Arctic dip that we took, right? Now all of a sudden things are warming up, things are getting wet, right? Okay, and so there's a war going on, or supposedly, and World War III, I still don't think is going to break out. But all these skirmishes you see that are happening with, Israel and Hamas and the Houthis and Iran, and those are all just symbolic. You got to remember, okay, and I don't know if I covered this in a video, I think I did, is each clump of land, let's take the United States, for example, represents a planet all by itself, and that is probably Earth, or the female version of himself that God made, that he breathed into, that created us as the children. Okay? The divine feminine. Okay? And right on your money it says, "In God we trust." And do we not act like the policemen of the world? So everything on this world is an aspect of our kingdom that we are over. Okay, so it's all symbolic. So all these other countries, Iran, China, they're all symbolic of other worlds. Okay? And you can even find that in a song. This isn't going to show up at all, but go ahead and, I'm telling you, check this stuff out. Don't just take my word for it. These are the lyrics to something called Renegades of Funk. And they mention right in there, since the prehistoric ages. Oh, that's Rage Against Machine, by the way, for anybody who doesn't know them. Okay. But they mention the prehistoric ages and right through the Middle Ages, all the changes that Earth kept going through. And even down here, they talk about from a different solar system, many, many galaxies away, we are the force of another creation. Okay? So there was more than just us created in all this. There's other worlds, but it was all destroyed. And the remnant, right, somewhere in the Bible it talks about there's a remnant to everything. There was a remnant to us, a remnant to these worlds. They were all gathered up like the movie Frankenstein, all put in a place and being brought back to life. To borrow a line from Star Wars, the Empire, I think it was Return of the Jedi, Luke turns himself in and Darth Vader greets him, and one of the things that he tells Luke is, "You do not yet realize your importance." And tons of people do not yet realize their importance. So let's go back to the prehistoric ages, right? Because oddly enough, this is, again, everything we know about history, I think, is life within this jar. Okay, because you've seen this before, right? Earth as Pangea, then we had this continental drift, and that's what formed the Earth. Well, right here is the Jurassic period. Right there. And the Bible also mentions a beast with 7 heads or 7 bodies, and if you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, there's actually 7 land masses right there. And this is showing you the growth of the earth inside that jar. I know it sounds crazy. It's, that's just the way I see it, though. I could be wrong. I'm very open-minded. That's why I continue to talk to the people that I talk to and share information. I've got as much stuff on my phone from Bobby as he's probably got on his phone from me. We just constantly share stuff back and forth, because even though we're not on the exact same walk, our path is close enough that, I think I help fill in some of the gray areas for him, and he helps fill in some gray areas for me. Now, whether that's even still the truth, I mean, we talk about this all the time. It could all just be, crap. And in a video a long time ago, I talked about, in the song "No More Tears" by Ozzy Osbourne, there's a line in there, it's a sign of the times, moving forward in reverse. Well, I found this the other day just flipping through different music stuff, and Saliva, I don't know if anybody knows that band, they have an entire album called "Moving Forward in Reverse." Okay? So, and there again, I don't make this stuff up. It's just out there, and it's how I piece it together and how I see it. So the anomaly that we live in there's probably multiples. You know, the anomaly inside the jar is one thing, but it's inside the earth, and the earth is the one that has the radiation field about it that I talked about in my last video. Okay, so that's the space, and there again, if you go back to yesterday's Enterprise, that's exactly what they're doing, right? Is they're investigating a spatial anomaly, and they call it a time rift, a rift in space. So, I don't know. That's just that's about all I have for today. I try not to get these videos too long, keep them manageable, so to speak. It's kind of a gloomy day here. We got some rain already. We're expecting more, but I think the whole country's going to get it because we're going to be moving into that Jurassic angelic conflict. So, you know, and I said in a video a long time ago that the closer we get to the end, just the crazier things are going to get, right? So everything from the political field to the war field to just what's going on, you know, all the drama about, you know, the border and what's going on in our country. And, you know, I cannot, everywhere I go on the internet, and I don't go many places. In fact, Maverick and Vicky over there introduced me to Twitter, X, whatever it is. I got into one of their rooms yesterday, as a matter of fact, and it was just complete chaos about, have you seen this and have you seen that, and this 400-page letter is going to come out, and, you know, the war we're heading into, and you know, they're going back to a Chevelle song. I think it's called "Face on the Floor." There's a line right in there that says "too close to it all." And I think that's one thing that has benefited myself and Maverick both, is we removed ourselves from so much of this world. We're not close to it at all. And that's kind of what it takes to get to this point. I do believe. I mean, you know, I could be wrong there, but you know, and it's just like our path. We walk similar paths, but just different enough that we see different things. We're looking at different avenues. And just like the truth, you know, the truth is factual too. You know, the Matrix has a big chunk in there. They tell you right in the Matrix that the humans live in a place called Zion, deep inside the earth by the core where it's still warm. And he takes Neo to the surface and it's all destroyed, right? Now, you're not going to watch any one movie or hear any one song and get all the truth. That just isn't going to happen, because the truth has been fractalized as well, okay? Mainly because of, you know, and I've showed this several times now, you know, if they ever find out what we did, they'd run through the streets and lynch us. Okay, and it wouldn't just be them. People, you know, you think people are going crazy now. You know, imagine if they woke up and knew the truth. They'd be going after, because everybody looks the same. All the aliens involved, everybody here, like the Bible says, was made equal. We're in the human form. And people would think that they know how to figure out, you know, who the aliens are, and people would be running around killing each other. So as much chaos as it appears they're trying to create, you know, they want their crap back. I've said this before too, just as badly as we do. So, you know, death is part of the equation that got us into this mess. So all they're doing is just putting on the play, hitting the time markers, putting out what needs to be there or doesn't need to be there, I guess, just depending on what you're looking for and looking at. So anyhow, and there's another Led Zeppelin song, and I've got the lyrics here, but it's not going to show up. One of the first lines is, "Then as it was, then again it will be." The restoration, even that's mentioned in, yesterday's Enterprise. You know, and again, I don't know if any of you had gone out and looked at that show. It's not that long. It's not going to consume that much of your time. I know I turned Maverick onto it, and he said he checked it out and he thought it was kind of interesting. But they cover all this stuff in there. Not specifically, and not all of it, because there again, like I said, the truth is fractalized too. They're not going, you know, the truth. If this is the truth, right here in my hand, they're going to put a little bit in that movie, a little bit in this movie, a little bit in that movie, a little bit in that movie over there, a little bit. It's all fractalized, all of it. And it's just how you string it all together, if you even see it. A lot of people don't see it to even begin stringing it together. Some people do. This is how I see it all. And, you know, I'm not going to apologize for how I see things, right, wrong, indifferent, because at some point, you know, and that's the one thing that even Maverick and I 100% agree on, I do believe, is that you know, how it goes down, when it goes down is completely irrelevant. The fact is something's going down, and when we get to the other side, catch you on the flip side, right? There's a saying there. You know, where'd all these sayings come from? You know, they've been around forever. You know, why do people believe what they believe in the first place? Is it because of the programming, the supposed thousands of years of history that points to this, that, and the other? Or do you believe it just because that's what you were taught and that's what you were told? In that case, what are you actually breathing in the air? Do you believe it's oxygen just because that's what you were taught and that's what you were told? You know, you know, when they say question everything, you really have to question everything. I don't have a gauge right here that's measuring the levels of anything in the atmosphere. You know, we could just be breathing straight energy. I mean, that's me. I just give things for people to think about, because I don't take anything at face value. I do my own research. I try to show you everything that I come across, and to form, you know, my opinion, if you will, on what's really going on. So, again, I hope somebody gets something out of the video. I love you all. Have a wonderful weekend. And I think we're headed towards a wet warming period. And we'll see more skirmishes. Don't follow the panic train to, World War III. Just like I always ask, at work I talk to people about this same stuff. And I was asked just yesterday, as a matter of fact, what I believed in conspiracy theories. And I said, just point one out and I'll tell you what I think. Because there's a lot of conspiracy theories involved in all this stuff. And he was talking about the bunkers that, people are, you're hearing a lot of that now, aren't you? The rich are, building these bunkers and going into bunkers, which is going to help perpetuate the World War III psychosis. But all it is right there in the Bible. It talks about how they're going to go into their caves and their bunkers. That's that part of the timeline. That shit has already happened. Okay, I guarantee you, all the people that have bunkers, you're still gonna see them in video clips or interviews. They ain't going nowhere. Just it's a timeline marker. Same thing with the arc storm that's coming in. There's a reason they give names to everything. Like I said, even the rockets, Artemis, Apollo. I mean, it's all symbolic. So anyway, have a wonderful weekend. Stay dry. Love you all. Bye-bye.